Okay, I'll trust you because I don't see a live button here. Hi, this is Keith with How to Build Your Own Home every Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We do live chat, so if you have any questions, you can go ahead and submit those. I'm going to be answering some emails today. Some of them have some very weighty content to them, so we're going to kind of go through those. But welcome again every Thursday, 5 to 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I got these from some students, and I just picked some emails that they were saying, please respond to these to live chat because they couldn't be here during the live chat. And let's see here. Here's one that, and I'm going to read this, and this is kind of a story that a lot of people have sent me over the years, and they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to respond to it, or they don't know how to avoid this hiccup when it comes. And I'll just kind of read this to you. I have not, let's see, you recommended finding a qualified subs. This is on a YouTube video through networking. I work in a flooring store. I have seen so many problems. Oops, the plumber forgot the solder. The pipe when he installed the water heater, so new construction flooded and the GC had to pay us to remove the reinstall LVP. That one came in this morning. Our installer took pictures, so he had proof. After he did his work, the homeowner hired a handyman that he found through quote unquote networking. The handyman installed a new toilet, but didn't properly seal the gasket, so it leaked from the wrong side of the toilet. Our installer has to tear out the flooring, vanity, and subfloor, then replace and properly install the toilet. Here's the thing, and here's the question. It was a GC that recommended this handyman. The handyman also used this GC's license to install LVP. Have you seen the red flag just yet? He made a mess of the LVP, and now the GC is in trouble. Can you recommend additional things to make sure the sub will really do quality work? I'm thinking referrals, but in the past, people have not wanted to give me referrals. We'll talk about that too. Anyway, love your channel. Thanks very much. So in the industry, it's just like a business. You're operating a business, okay? And you want to do business with another business. So it's a B2B, a business to business model. Before you do business with another business, let's say you are going to buy their widgets in order to put together your gizmo, all right? Widgets you buy to build your gizmo. Well, you're going to want to know, can they maintain this? Where's the quality? Where do they get their parts? You do a little bit of a deep diving. Well, when it comes to subcontractors, one of the number one things to look for is if they're licensed and they pay their own insurance. All right. When a subcontractor, could be a handyman, could be just about anybody, wants to use another general contractor's license, that's the biggest red flag of all, because they're not willing to cough up the money to pay for their own liability insurance to cover their handiwork. They want to lean on somebody else's insurance to do that. And when a general contractor, because they're nice and maybe they're a friend and maybe they're helping them out because if it's a downtime, that is a red flag. And you don't want to hire anybody like that. You want to, like I'm hiring a new stucco contractor, a new drywaller, just testing them out. First thing I ask for, where's your insurance? Where's your certification if you have to be licensed with the state? And if they give me that, and I have heard many times that they're good, and you try them out on a small job, then you can work through them. The problem with networking is that most networking platforms, and I can speak very astute to this, is that most networking, whether it's chambers of commerce, even your local builder associations, is that you really don't get to know people one-on-one. You don't have that opportunity. You go, it's a luncheon and lecture situation. You hear somebody speak. Like my son went to a networking event today. It wasn't mine, another one. And he sat there and most of the people were asleep and he didn't make contact with anybody. So that's not real networking. Real networking is a relationship building thing, and where you get closer and closer to the point where, oh yeah, I kind of like that guy. I really like that guy. No, he's good. I've worked with him 1,000 times. I trust him. That's what networking should do. It should bring people together closer and closer. We talked about that in my networking organization this morning. And one of the things that everyone likes is that we know each other so well. We've done business with each other for such a long time, and we're doing more business with each other because we really have that deeper understanding. Any GC who gives a subcontractor the ability to use their license really doesn't know that person. And it's a risk on their shoulders. And now that GC's in trouble because it's all defaulting to his license, and the insurance company is going to come after him for all of that. The other, so begging the question then, if networking's not work, then what does work? Well, first of all, your due diligence, making sure that person is operating as an independent business on their own. How long have they been doing that independent business on their own? That's a big tell. And are they properly insured, and are they licensed if they need to be licensed? Okay. Now, when I first started off as a general contractor, I needed what was called 4 total years of experience. 2 years had to be in a supervisory role over others, site supervisors, stuff like that, under and while working under a general contractor. And then I had 2 years have to be supervisory, and then 2 more had to be just working under another general contractor. Well, when I got past the test and I got my liability insurance, I had to get what was called a qualifier for the last 6 months of my supervisory experience. Well, a good friend of mine, now this is what the state allows. State allows that general contractor to be what's called, like I said, the qualifier, but I still had to get my own license. I still had to get my own insurance. I had to be fully covered on those fronts, but I was working under his license for just 6 months, but I was still independent. It's something the state allows for, and they actually push so that they have some monitoring, and then on top of that general contractor, he had to own 20% of my company. So I gave him 20% of the company when the 6 months were over with, even though I was licensed and insured. I wasn't a fully qualified GC. He released his 20% interest, and I was on my own. All right. It's very rare that you'll kind of see that, but it does exist in some states. The point I'm getting at is you want to operate with people who are completely on their own. And I could talk forever about the power of having your own business and why it's so important, because owning your own business really creates independence. And independence allows you to think, speak, act, perform on your own, and you're fully liable for that. Now, if a person is uncomfortable with that, then they shouldn't be in business. That's why if they're using some other general contractor's license and not their own, they're probably in trouble. They probably acted in an improper way. They may have some legal problems that they've dealt with in the past, bad, whatever, right? You don't need to be doing business with that. Make sure that they're fully licensed on that. And as for quality, quality has staying power. It really does. Quality sticks around. And I've had quality issues once in a while on my jobs, and I fully account for them. And I will warranty them, and I'll back them up, especially within the first year after they move in and get a certificate of occupancy. I give a full year. And some of my other subcontractors, because of appliances they buy, features they buy, the warranty is extended for the life of the home or 10 years or whatever it may be. But you want to see their paperwork. You want to see what kind of warranty do they have. Do they have an actual bid, or is it just a text message? If the bid comes in as a text message, you've got a problem. Like I've been working with a new plumber this week. I've picked up a couple of remodels. I typically don't do that. But my general plumber doesn't do remodels. He's strictly new construction, and he's really, really good at that. That's where he feels comfortable with. So he referred me to a plumber who does strictly remodels, and he passes all his work to him. And I go, okay, great. I know this plumber after years of being in business with him. He's not even in my network. He's just my plumber that I use. He referred him to me, and this other plumber has been messaging me all week, asking me questions about a remodel. The communication's on top of it. And then he said to me just about an hour ago, I should have that bid for you by the end of the day. Thanks for the update on the inclusions that I want him to add. I wanted him to actually scope the sewer system with a camera and make sure it actually does go into the septic system. It's a long story. Maybe I'll do a post on it. But again, it takes time. You have to be able to be comfortable with getting to know people and asking them information and making sure that their bid has details on it, exclusions, inclusions. How focused are they on their business? If they really, if you had this is a really interesting story. I have a subcontractor. I won't mention the field he's in, but his quality is really top notch. But his business practices are very, he's messy. I went into his office and I said, "Hey, man," and we were talking about business, and he's had some injuries on the job because he has a skill set that requires a lot of lifting, a lot of muscle, and he injured himself. And he was out for 6 months. Now he's getting back. And I told him, get your office in order, get this cleaned up, and start to hire people out and focus on the marketing and the back end office of your business. And he says, "I got to do that, Keith. I need to take me to lunch and figure out how to do that." I could really talk forever about this, but there's a lot of, I should do like a 10-point thing. We should do this on a video, sweetie, a 10-point thing on the things to look for in a great subcontractor. I think I can put together those. And these are just 5 things. You don't need to go to 10, 5 things to look for in finding a great subcontractor. And because to me, it's like automatic. I'll find someone, I can get a beat on them real quick. Like I met a plumber and he had his son with him. He's teaching his son the trade. He's probably in his early 40s, a lot of experience. Just a lot of things were coming through real quick. And it's kind of like, you typecast people and you get a beat on them. Maybe I can put together some things to look for in people so that it gives you a little shortcut. I did write a book on the subject. It's called the 3 people to hire and the 3 people to fire, called Fake Optimists. It's on Amazon. You can check that out. It's very informative on reading personality styles and stuff like that. There's a lot of good information on that. You can check that book out as well. Let's go with this other question. We'll start taking some questions. There's some questions coming in. Okay. Let's go to this other question here. A student wrote, "I love watching your How to Build Your Own Home content on YouTube. My husband and I are a few years away from building a home. In the meantime, I'm researching and learning as much as possible so that our dream home is truly a dream. I plan to take your introductory course when we are closer to making this as a reality. I have a conflict Thursday evenings and I'm not able to attend your live Q&A. In your layout sketches, I am trying to incorporate as many age-in-place considerations." It's an interesting phrase, age-in-place considerations, "as possible. Wide walls and doors, no thresholds, main floor living, etc. I also want to weigh cost and benefit for preparedness features like a hidden safe room, basement, stock room, hand pump well in the property, wood furnace, fireplace, etc. I was wondering if you could talk about these 2 topics in some depth on your channel. I'm sure you have ideas that I haven't thought of. Do you have lists like this in your courses? If not, I would appreciate that for when I'm a student. For reference, we will be building in Wisconsin." That's a really interesting, and I might just do a checklist on age in place checklist. And I just think I'll just create a checklist for that. Age in place checklist. These are all the things that you want to consider for when people think of a dream home. You could be in your early mid 30s or even 40s. You're healthy. You can go up and down the steps and you're in the home for 15 to 20 years and you find out, oh, that's not great. We should have designed this home differently. So if you think you're going to be in a home for a while, we can do some age in place checklists, and I'll actually create that and put it in the program. But I'll answer one thing here, and that has to do with, she mentioned here, base room, hand pump, well, water, etc. If you're doing a stem wall, and I'm actually thinking about this on a build for a client, he's got a stem wall. It's going to be a 3-foot clearance stem wall. It could be a little higher. I'm actually going to put some gravel in there, and there's some low profile tanks that they're, polyethylene tanks, and we want to put those in there before we put the floor on, because you'll not be able to get anything in there after the fact. They'll be in place. They'll be on a nice bedded rock foundation, actually pea gravel. That way they can fill them up and then empty them, fill them up and empty them without taking up space in the home. The best way I can put this is, think of all the empty cavity space you can imagine, all right? Think of all the empty space you can imagine in a home and how to use that space. Now, a lot of this you're not going to see until you start framing the home. It's hard to see that three-dimensionally on a two-dimensional surface or even in 3D images. But once you start to frame it, you're going to start to see it. When the stem wall comes up, that's when I realized, wow, we actually shot the elevation of the stem wall. Then we shot the second tier as well. And I go, man, that's going to be a 3-foot stem. It's great for subcontractors. They can get in there, sit on their butt, work on plumbing, electrical right from this angle. So it's going to have a lot of headroom in there. Some stem walls are going to be short. So I thought, wow, I'm going to have this cavity. What could I do with that cavity? What can I place in that cavity? So that's the best. That's probably the first thing on the list is what can you do with cavities and dead valley or dead spaces and stuff like that. And that will start to get you thinking. All right. But I will create a checklist on this and I will add it to the program and I'll save that and I'll get that done. Probably when I'm done tonight, I'll just go start it. And usually I create checklists over a period of a week. I open it up in the morning and I start answering questions and adding more to it. So thank you for those emails. We'll take some questions now from people. And this one's from Golden Bird, Brain Patty. And that's a cool one. Hi, Keith. Thank you for all your guidance building in Colorado. What trade or trades typically do the exterior foundation, waterproofing, and perimeter drain installation? The exterior foundation is sometimes your concrete guy will add as a line item. I can tar it if you want, or I can add other products to the exterior. Some of them don't. But if they don't, your foundation crew, your concrete subcontractor, they will refer you to one or two people, typically in the area, who will come and tar the exterior of the foundation or some other application. So just see if it's a line item. And if not, ask, can you do it? Can you install that? And if they can, great, add it as a line item. And then you also said waterproofing, same thing. And perimeter drain installation is typically either a landscaper or the excavator if the excavator is keen to it. But that's a shallow trench, and excavators don't like to dig shallow trenches. They have big equipment. They want to move big amounts of dirt. So it may not be a cost benefit thing for them to bring all their heavy equipment just to trench that. Typically, a landscaper will take care of that. Okay, next question. Precise builders. Hey, Keith, what is your time frame for a new build start to finish? Depends on the complexity of the build, where it's at, how many floors, what's the excavation like. But I'm starting one that I hope to finish in 7 months, 6 months before the end of the year. I've done some that have taken around 11 months. I've never gone more than a year on a build, especially on a high-end custom luxury home. I know luxury builders in the area and that take 14 months. But that's unheard of, and that's because there's a lack of decision-making and timely scheduling. Owner builders, it can be a year. I've seen owner builders go as much as, short as 8 months. My fastest build was 4 months as an owner builder. My first build was pretty quick because I just was eager, and I was there every night, and I was pushing it, and my wife was helping me with the bookkeeping and all that. Depends on the complexity of the build. If it's like a Rambler, maybe 1,800 square feet, single level, maybe on a stem wall, that shouldn't take you more than 8 months. Owner builder, if you're really on top of it and you got some help and there's two of you doing it, maybe 6.5, 7 months. But production builders are about 3.5, 4 months, same house over and over. But they're just schedule freaks. They're on top of it. So I don't like to operate that way. I like to take a little more time. When my pad is poured, just as a side note, I like to let it sit. I know builders that will just throw framing on there a day after it's been poured. I don't like to put weight on it and start cranking away at bolts and stuff on the foundation for at least a week. Some people say 30 days, but I like to let it sit and think about it, water it down, and do some final grading around the property, and then bring in my scaffolding, then bring in the heavy crews and bring in the lumber and all that. I hate working on a mess, and if you're patient, you'll be able to go from each step with a clean slate, And you go to production sites and there's no clean slate. It's a mess everywhere, piles of dirt everywhere. They're just going and going and going. They don't care about the mess. They figure you're going to clean it up at the end. But it's hard to think and it's hard to imagine. It's not fun to be on a site like that. So take your time, and that way you can go from phase to phase with a full knowledge of what's coming. So hope that answers your question. Michael Cottingham. Keith, question. How would the city handle a project completed under a false contractor's license? or another person's license. Would they hold the CO? No and yes. First of all, the state could come down on them, but the city doesn't really have any jurisdiction on coming down on a GC. As long as the inspections have passed, that's all that matters to them. If they pass the inspections. As for other quality issues, I don't know. But when it comes to the state, every state licenses their general contractors. That could be an issue. And you could report if this is a situation you're running into or a friend, then you can report that person to the state, and then that state flags them. I know of subcontractors who've been flagged many, many, many times. And they eventually get out of the area because their word gets out that these are people you don't want to work with. They're living under a false license. That's actually a criminal offense to falsify a license. So check with your state construction registry. You can go on there, even to state business corporations, and you can type in their business name. And if their business name comes up and it's in status, meaning it's active, it's typically active, or it's inactive or went dormant, that's something that's another red flag. You don't want to hire anybody who's got a business that's not even active with the state. And that's a no-no. Pretty soon you're going to be able to check with the federal government. Next year, about this time, every business is going to have to report on all beneficial owners of a company. They're going to have to report on their address, their phone number, their name. All of that's going to have to be reported to the federal government, and you're going to have to pay a fee to do that. Just like you have to report to the state, I have to relicense myself and pay my fees to keep not my license, but my registration up with my business. The federal government is looking into the situation, and they're saying, hey, the states are making money on this. Why don't we? And then they're going to put some heavy fines on people if they don't update their business anytime there's a change in beneficial ownership. It's called the Transparency Act. They just want to make things look transparent, but it's really a way to get more money out of the system. So keep that in mind. It's one nice thing for people like us that, well, if you can't find them on the state, can I go check the Fed? And you can check them and double check them. Yeah, that's a subcontractor keeping their license up to date. So something to keep aware of. Okay. Golden Bird. Does an electrician typically set up temporary electric service for a rural lot? How do they coordinate with the electrical service provider, or is the location dependent? It's a very good question. We brought this up. I'm actually going to do a video on this on the YouTube channel. There's a lot of things to consider, but I'm actually getting away as much as I possibly can from temporary power. I'm going straight to perm power, and I'm going to do a video on that. Please watch the YouTube channel because I have to do it on site to explain why and the pros and cons of it when you want temporary power and when you really don't need temporary power. So I'm going to answer that on a video. But to answer your question, typically set up temporary power. Does the electrician typically set up temporary power? Yes, they do. Typically on a new build lot, they put a pole on the ground right next to the transformer or just underneath the transformer where there's power, or over by the box transformer if it's a more newer subdivision. All the electricity is underground. I will call the county or the city, and I will have, can I get a perm temporary power inspection? And you can do it online. I need a temp power inspection. They'll come look at the pole, the temporary pole. It's in the ground. The electrician put it there. Their wires are running to the box or to the overhead transformer, and they've got a ground stuck in the, a EFR ground stuck in the ground. They will inspect that. It's all good. And then the power company, they typically notify the power company. Some of them are very slow at doing this. They notify the power company, temp power is approved. Power company will come and put the meter on, flip the switch, and you've got power. But here's the problem, and I'll talk about that in a video. That costs me about $350 to $450 every time I have my electrician come put a temporary power pole. So I'm not doing that on a job site. I went and trenched the trench directly to the pole, cost me about $450. Got the pipe. I called the power company today, asked them if they can do an inspection. They'll do an inspection. I can bury it, and I'll have perm power on the first day of framing, perm power. And right close to the building. And I'll explain more why that's important and on that video post. But yeah, you'll want to call for an inspection on the temp power. But you may want to think, do I really need to do that? And can I wait? There's a lot to talk about on that. Look for my post. It'll come in a couple weeks here. Alex R. Hey, Keith. So I hired a tree removal land clearing contractor at the end of last month and was told he would start on April 1st. He has not even began the work yet because of equipment problems. Should I tell him not to worry about my job anymore and find someone else and then wait on their schedule? Find someone else and see how quick they can get there. If they got equipment problems and it's the 1st of June or 1st of April and it's now the 25th of April, that means that they probably don't have enough cash flow to actually get the equipment fixed. It shouldn't take that long to get equipment fixed unless it's a special part, it's a big backhoe. But if I wanted to work, to be honest with you, I would have gone and rented a backhoe to stay work while my other backhoe was working, and I would have taken a little bit of a hit on my cost. But that delay is a big sign, is a big red flag to me. I would immediately, it sounds like he's not operating a business.
Or he made an excuse.
Or he made an excuse and overbooked himself and he keeps delaying you because you're the nice person. You're not the squeaky wheel. It's a red flag to me, and they're not being honest. And it's something uncertain there. And so I'd look for another one. Keep that guy open because he's delayed, but call tomorrow. Look around real quick. Find someone. Hey, I'm looking for this. Any way you can look at it? Yeah, I'll tell you. I'll be at 4 o'clock today after I finish some work. Is that fair? Meet him 4 o'clock if it's all good. Look at his schedule. How quick can you get at this? I've been waiting for a month on this other guy. Tell you what, I'm kind of booked for about 5 days. I can get there on Monday the next. Is that okay? Yeah. And then you can trade for something that's going to be a better communicator. So that's a red flag, that amount of time. So Jimmy, good evening. After meeting with your subcontractors in the morning and giving them the scope of work, how long should I stay on the job site each morning? As long as you want, really, it doesn't matter. However, I had 2 clients and I was the GC on, and my clients were there all the time, just standing like this. Not friendly, not talkative, not asking questions, not wanting to learn, just like this. And then they would come to me and complain about my subcontractors. And that's not good. I mean, if you're not a human related person, then don't hang around. If you do hang around, pick up some trash, do something, help them out. When I'm on a job site and I got a lot of extra time, I'll organize some lumber, I'll sweep something, I'll empty a trash bag. And I got to think, guys, appreciate it. And when you leave, just say thank you, and say, I appreciate your work. And there's no reason why you to be mean. There's a bad philosophy out there in business world that you've got to be a rough, tough person in order to get things done. No, you get rough and tough when things are not getting done. But when things are getting done, you don't need to be that way. Just be a cordial person. And when you leave, say thank you. And then I'll see you guys tomorrow. And they know you're going to be there tomorrow. Okay. JD Desktop Comp 1042. Hope I said that right. Do you have a checklist for ADU conversion? Thanks. That's a good question. A garage conversion. It's really the same process. The online program I have would really abide by the same thing. The only thing that I can consider, can I use your pen, sweetie? I'm going to put down here JD conversion. ADU. ADU conversion. I can always think of just a couple of them. And how easy is it to attach to the home, or are you doing a detached home? That's a garage. And if it's a garage situation, then will the city allow for that? Because most cities will require for at least 1 car garage. And if you're going to give up your whole garage, where's the garage going to go? And so that could be an issue. And checking with the county and the city, the permitting office, what really is allowed and what's not allowed. That's the first thing on the checklist, is to seeing what you can qualify for. For example, if you do an ADU in some areas and it's detached, they're going to limit the square footage on that. In my neck of the woods, it used to be 400 square feet. Now they've changed their mind on that. But for years, you could not build an ADU larger than 400 square feet that was detached. And if you want to attach something and get a larger ADU, then you can do all kinds of things you want. I would look to attach it. Now, this is an attached garage situation. Attaching your home, attaching an ADU gives you a lot more flexibility down the road, and I can't go into why, but it has to do with multifamily situations. A lot of cities don't want to see multifamily unless it's attached to the home. And the more detached you get, and you want maybe another ADU or a better ADU, you should have attached the first one. So think very carefully on that. But check with the county, check with the city permitting office, and ask them, can I lose my garage and not have a garage and park my car on the drive or park my car on the street? And you need to double check the first one on the checklist. Okay, Bradley, do you have a checklist for inspections that will need scheduled throughout the entire process? Yes, I do. It's the most common checklist. There's 2 downloads I have. One of them actually gives, there's phase 1 and phase 2 of the construction process. Phase 1 gives you all the checklists, and the first phase of the home is all the way to mechanical inspection, framing, foundation, rebar, you name it, all the way to mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Once all those are done, then there's dots all along the road as to when those inspections are going to come. And then the second phase, there's hardly any inspections, all the way until you get a certificate of occupancy, and that's your final inspection. But yeah, there's a download there. Check it. It's in the probably in the download section, and there's another file in there that actually talks about inspections as well. Plus, the flow chart talks about inspections. There's a lot of places inside the program that talk about that. Tyler, hey, just bought your course in Idaho. Can you have fixtures in the exterior walls, or does it have to come up through the floor? For example, can we have a wall-mounted faucet on an exterior wall, 2x6 wall? Yes, but you want to be careful with that, especially in Idaho, if that wall is on a northern side of the home, or even on a shaded east or a partially shaded western side of the wall, because that's not going to ever warm up. I had some homes up north of me at about the 3,700 foot level, and they had some freezing on the north side of the home. And this was 2x6 wall, and the pipes were coming right up through the exterior of the wall, and they froze right there, and it leaked. They busted. So we had to literally go to the outside wall, pull out some siding, attach some rigid foam, 2-inch foam, shore it up with some cleats, and then put the siding back on to help out with that. The other thing you can avoid that, and plumbers do this all the time, is they don't take the pipes directly to the outside wall. They keep it inside the foundation as much as they possibly can. Then they put it PEX in a sleeve. The job up north I dealt with, it was straight copper and concrete. Not a good situation. They thought they were saving money, but they were creating a nightmare for themselves. It was sleeved in plastic, but that plastic wasn't a rigid piece of plastic. It was just loose plastic, and it froze, and it came up right through the exterior wall. And because of that, we had a problem, and it leaked. And so in your case, if you're having a faucet, like a shower faucet or something coming outside the exterior wall, ask yourself, how well can I insulate that? That's my dog. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. She's a visa. She's very, very excited about something that's outside right now. The best thing I can do is there's some insulation you can put around a pipe. It's a kind of a black and sometimes gray sleeved insulation. And if you're worried about the pipe freezing or getting cold, you can actually put an additional insulation around it, and that would actually help as well. I've seen some people actually put some wire heaters around their pipe, and so it's connected to a thermostat. And if they just need to have a pipe in an exterior wall and it's on a northern side and you get really, really cold, that heater is going to come on automatically and warm that pipe. And when it does, you're going to avoid yourself from freezing. But I haven't had any problems with PEX in a sleeve freezing. And I've built some homes in some very, very, very cold climates. But if there are old homes with copper in them, that is an absolute nightmare, because copper just is a rigid product. And because it's so rigid, it has nowhere to go but bust, and it will bust that pipe. And so if you have any copper inside, like the copper head, they use the copper nipple on the top of the shower head, that part's going to have water in it. And if it freezes, that part could have some serious problems. It's that specific part where they have the attachment. It could be brass or copper attachment to the plumbing on the exterior wall, and that could be subject to it. And the other thing to watch out for is if you have a plug or some other outlet in that wall on the outside, now you have the risk of a cold condensing surface or cold airflow into that wall, therefore causing the ability to freeze that pipe. So you make sure that that wall is super insulated. You might even put in some rigid foam, which has a higher R value just in that small section. And by doing that, you increase the R value and slow the transfer of cold wicking into the home and freezing that pipe. So if you create a thermal break in there with some rigid foam, that would be even better. So, okay, next question. Paul, how would you waterproof an underground wine whiskey cellar, but into the side of a mountain? Do you want to waterproof? I would do it on the outside. I wouldn't try to do it on the inside.
I don't know. Depends on how big.
There's some, I'm not a fan of tar because I've seen, and everyone approves it, permitting offices are okay with it, but I've seen rocks get thrown into the pit where they're backfilling, and it just scratches and takes that tar off really, really easy. There's some other products that are probably better. The best way to, if it's not built yet and it's a all concrete foundation, the best advice I can give you is if you're going to pour concrete in the pad and then you're going to have concrete around the walls, pour the pad second, pour the foundation walls on a footing, and then pour the pad second, right? Now, the advantage of that is that you've got a 3.5 to 4 inch lift that's separated from the cold pour joint on the foundation. I don't know if that makes sense here. This is your footing, okay? You poured your footing and it goes down 18 inches, 10 inches, 12 inches, whatever. And then you put your foundation wall with rebar coming up through there right on top of that footing, okay? But now on the inside of it, you're going to pour your slab and it's going to be above the footing, above that cold pour joint. That's where the leaks come through, is through the cold pour joint. That's the worst part. And so if you can keep the pad up higher and even insulate the pad to lift it even higher above that cold pour joint with a 2-inch foam, rigid foam, you can get 2 inches plus the pad, let's say it's 3.5 or 4 inches. You could have that pad, the top of that pad inside 6 inches above that cold pour joint. So you're not going to have any leakage. And the leakage that does come through is high water, high issues. And if that's the case, then you do a French drain all the way around the foundation, a porous pipe, put it at the bottom, fill it up with gravel, and then, bury the whole thing. That way, if water does come through, it's got that open cavity pipe to work its way into and then extricate itself away from the building. That's if you are going to have some some high water issues coming into the foundation. Okay. Paco, is it hard to get a Class A license? Do you recommend taking classes online to pass the test? I am in Virginia. What's a Class A license? Is that for driving or is that for building? I'm not sure what a Class A license. I have a B100 license. That's what they call it here in my state. B100 meaning that I can do commercial and residential construction. And I don't know what a Class A is. If it's just residential or if it's commercial, I don't know what Class A is. If you can let me know what that is, that would help me out. KJX11, my municipality requires professionally prepared designs, architect or structural engineer or something similar. I'm looking to do a rancher plus basement. What's the most cost-effective approach? You're going to need both because if you go into an engineer and you're going to say, I want this house, they're going to charge you the design fee, meaning the drafting fee. And then after it's drafted, they'll take the vector file from whatever application they use, transform it into, or create structural plans, and you'll need both. But if the city office is not very rigid and they'll go with any plans, that's kind of dangerous because if you don't have structural plans, then the framer, nobody can be held accountable. Well, I just framed it. This is an 8-foot high ceiling, but it doesn't have any straps, doesn't have any hold downs, doesn't have any shear walls on it. So you could be in trouble because they're just building the height and dimensions of something, but not the structural integrity of something. So you're going to have to
He's got two more.
Okay.
Things after that. You
Okay.
wanna continue?
Yeah, let me read the rest of it. My father's a GC, 40 years, highly varied experience. He usually does permitted designs by hand. I was looking to work with him to make a simple design, but can't due to that requirement for context. I'm not sure if my question is clear. I'm trying to make the plans in the most cost-efficient way that still fulfills the professionally prepared requirement. I can elaborate if needed. I can understand what you're talking about. If your dad can draft the plans in a CAD file, then and he can do that for free because he's your dad and he loves you. Then you can send it to a structural engineer to have the structural engineering done. But if he has a lot of experience, and if the city is okay with it, and your dad knows, and he has a lot of experience with framing, and he knows the header height, dimensions, the supporting beam structure of everything, and he can take care of you that way without spending the cost. And if the city allows for it, you can go that route. That's not a problem. I just have a talk with your dad and say, Dad, are you confident with your designs and putting specifications on the design? I want to hold down here. I want to tighten the screw here. I want J-bolts here. I want whatever I want. You can put it all down. If it's not detailed like that, then the builders, the framers, they can't build. They just will make guesses on stuff and they won't know. So you need somebody with experience, deep experience, or an engineer to actually create a legend that details on the plans where all these things are going to go and how to actually build a home. The more details you have, then you can hold that framer accountable. You can hold that concrete person accountable. They're supposed to build to these specifications. And the more specifications you have, the better. So.
And then you hold the engineer.
And for those that are interested, I have an architect, I have two architects, and I have an engineer in my program. I have two engineers, and one's licensed in 39 states, and another one is licensed in 45 states. And they can pretty much, they've covered ground for a lot of my students. And I have a drafts person, he's really affordable. And I have another architect, and their prices are not bad. $1.25, $1.50 a square foot. And just check them out. They're on the download section under engineers, architects, and miscellaneous. Steve, hi Keith, Western Colorado Ranch on walkout basement, drawings finished tomorrow. Your self-managed course has been terrific. I've made several changes to the specifications with your recommendations. Great, I'm glad that works. Thank you for all you do, Steve. You're welcome, Steve. We need to save some of this for testimonials. Let's see, Alex R. All the HVAC contractors I've spoken to recommend spray foam insulation to be able to use smaller AC units. I know Rockwell is good, but should I follow the contractor's recommendations? It's your call, but here's just my take on it. No, I don't like spray foam. I hate spray foam. I just called an insulator, a manufacturer today, a supplier of this product. And I says, I tell you what, and his name's Darren. I said, Darren, we've talked shop for quite a long time. I'm tired of foam. I don't like foam. I do not like polyethylene foam. It shrinks over time, and nobody will tell you this, and nobody talks about it. Over a 15-year period, it can shrink up to 10%. Now, if you're putting stucco behind that, that's what's causing a lot of stucco to crack. And over time, it's a flame thing. When it goes on fire, it's going to smoke like black smoke. I just don't like it. Plus, it's not vapor permeable nor water permeable. It's a solid enclosure. That's what closed cell foam is. It's a solid enclosure. And as you know from me, I like my homes to breathe. Joe Seabrick, the best building science guy I know of, constantly talking about allowing for vapor permeable homes, to allow for homes to breathe just a little bit. And so when they're saying that, they're saying it for a cost benefit on a cheaper HVAC unit. All right. The only area that I use foam in is an omniblock, and the foam is embedded in the wall. So if there's a fire, it's not going to reach the foam at all. It's embedded on two sides of concrete, which is why I don't like ICF, because the foam is on the outside. So foam is not a bad product. It's a very powerful thermal break. It's one of the best powerful thermal breaks that are out there. Heat doesn't transfer through it, but I don't like it on the outside of anything. I don't like it under the deck of my roof. I want it buried underground. I want it under my slab. I don't want it exposed at all. And so that's why I don't like the spray foam. But I tell them, no, I don't want to do that. They don't really have to downsize their HVAC. They're just trying to get some the job and telling you how it's going to work. Just tell them, give me the price without the phone. You know.
Oh, he just added something.
The spray foam contractor spoke to says he would use open cell. Open cell is not bad, but it's still not the best at flame retardants. And when you get a fire in a home and you've got any kind of foam in there, the entire home is toast. It's just toast. You cannot get away from that. You have to just take everything out. That's why I don't like it. I mean, if I had rock wool in a home and it caught on fire, it's not going anywhere. And if it's just a part of the home, just a small part of the attic where there's a fire, it's not going to work its way into other structure of the home. I called the guy today. I'm looking to order 1-inch rock wool compressed rain screen product that I can literally put on the outside of the home and then apply stucco directly to it. And I'm tired of doing that with foam. I'm trying to change my game, trying to see what else I can do to make for a better product. So
this question goes back to that.
Okay, this question. Thank you. Love the channel. Follow up. How do I go about finding a structural engineer drafter to work with? I sent a local one on email. No response. Not really sure how to find one to work with. No. In the program, if you're in the self-managed practice, go to the download section and talk to Brian. His name's Brian. Brian Headley. He's a draftsperson. His communication is great. He's worked with several of my students. They love him. He likes working with owner builders. He's very patient. He's got a lot of detail on his drafting. He's done a lot of work. So go there and check him out. He's affordable. He's around $1.25, $1.50 a square foot, and you'll have great communication back and forth. It's wonderful. For those that are in my GC package that have used him, there's been 2 or 3 of them. We've had great communication back and forth, and they'll send me the plans. I'll make some comments on them, and then they'll make some adjustments and kind of move forward with that. But check him out. Just reach out to him and call him, talk with him, send him an email. All right. He'd love to work. If you're in the self-managed package, you'll see it. But if you're not in the self-managed package, you are kind of going about it blind. I would strongly recommend purchasing the self-managed package. It's a cost that will save you headaches. You just saw right there, a student mentioned how it saved them and how they made some adjustments. Just some of the download files. Like I've got a budget that it's a rocking budget. It's not only a budget that helps you line item every single cost, but it has the draw sheets with it on the second page where you can actually track all of your costs during the entire course of construction. There's no other budget on the market like that. With all the downloads and checklists and videos and you name it, it's worth the cost. In fact, my wife wants to increase the cost, and she's in charge of that. But it's really worth it. I can't say more. If you're not in that program, I strongly recommend doing that. If you've taken the First Steps course, make sure at the last module, a lot of students miss this, there's a coupon code at the very end of the First Steps course, and use that coupon code for the self-managed course. And it basically gives you that First Steps course for free. It just takes off that cost and plus a little bit more. So make sure the last module in the First Steps course, there's a module. There's a coupon code. Look for that coupon code. Okay, Cliff, how do you JV with a GC builder? What would they like to see? A junior varsity, junior, kind of like an apprentice with that. It's just a relationship thing. It really is. I was stumped probably 10 years ago. I was doing a great job on a job, and just a phenomenal job. I saved them like $18,000 on excavation, saw things in advance, made several corrections on a home, and they had a death in the family, and they had to go away for 2 weeks. I don't worry, they came back, everything was fine. And then at the finish side, near when we were about ready to get a finish, we had a 7-way inspection. They called me to the job and they said, "We'd like to let you go." And I said, "Why?" And I said, we just would like to let you go." They never told me why. And I says, well, I've got money on the table. I put a lot of time in this home, and I don't like, and I've got a contract. Well, it says, what will it cost to let you go? And I says, let me get back to you. Looked at it, and I says, $7,000. I'll let you go. And they let me go, and they went and hired another general contractor. And I could never figure out why. And so I think we had a great relationship. I remember when the family died, I got them a tree to plant on their property when their mother died, and it was great. But for some reason, I think what it boiled down to is he was one of these on a job site all day long, never talking with him. He was one of those two, always on a job site, and he made people uncomfortable. He wanted me to be there at the same time all the time. And even though things were getting done and things were moving forward, and I saved money and solved a lot of problems, he even borrowed my tractor one time. This is when I had a long green John Deere tractor, and he busted it. He didn't want to pay for it. He ran over big rocks, and he busted my oil filter. And he says, that shouldn't be my cost. And and that was a red flag right there, And he was one of these, and I did a video, my son and I talked about it, why you should not be an owner builder. And he's one of those that was strictly, I want to save as much money as I can. And even if I have to do it on your back, I'm going to do it. He was one of those. He was just a taker. And so if you have a relationship with a builder and he's quality time cost, or he's something and he's got a principle and you've got a good relationship and it's fun and you can talk to, great. But if you're a JVer and you want to learn, that's great. How can we do it that way? How did they do that? That was interesting. Be like that. Be curious, be fun, be wanting to learn, but don't be there like this. How can we do it like that? If you're like that, you're going to drive that GC nuts, and he's going to want to walk away from the job site. So be patient, and it's all relationships. And if you're comfortable with being curious about learning, it'd be great. It'd be great for the GC. I'd love to have somebody who wants to learn. I love to teach. So
and tell them you love the outdoors.
And tell them you love the outdoors. You get a nice tan on there. Okay, next question. Brock Builder, greetings from Raleigh, North Carolina. I've had a lot of students from North Carolina. I don't know what it is about there. I think that's the owner builder state. We have to go visit. I think North Carolina is the owner builder state. Isn't that the state, the can-do state? What state is the can-do state? Is that Oklahoma or Kansas? I can't remember. One state's the can-do state. We're the beehive state. Yeah. Here's another testimony. Goldenberg, self-managed course is well worth money. Thank you, Goldenberg. Appreciate it. We'll keep adding to it, and it's gonna be fun. Our very first client saved $3,000. That's why we decided to keep moving forward. Yeah, our very first client said, "I saved $3,000 from your course." This was years ago. Very first day. Because they were going to hire the wrong engineer. Yeah, they were going to hire the wrong engineer, and we caught them. Yeah. And so I remember one student, I could go on, like stories and stories, but yeah. Okay, that's all. Thank you, Golden Bird Brain. Oh, joint venture. JV is joint venture. Oh, joint venture. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's probably a spec build. Is that a spec build? If you go back up. I'll bet that's yeah. Does he want to go into joint venture? What do you look for? Yeah. With a GC. Do they like to talk shop? If they like to talk about building science, that's kind of a good sign. I know. That could be a good video to do, like joint ventures, because these days it costs a lot to do projects. My wife is writing down some videos to do. Thanks. We're getting some good ideas from you folks. Okay, next one. Okay. Boy, we just got 5 minutes here. I think the hardest thing, and we were talking about this morning, is there's the Prado rule. I don't know if you know about the Prado rule. It's the 20-80 principle. The 20% of the people do 80% of the work. Okay. And those people who do 80% of the work, there's 20% of the people, they do 80% of the work. They're learning driven. Okay. Like, just in the past 2 days, I met a guy out here. He cut some concrete for my home. I got a doggy door, you can see over there. And he said, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure." He says, "What what do you do for a living? Because he looked at the quality of my home and all that kind of stuff. And I says, I'm a builder. And he says, that kind of makes sense. And I says, why do you ask? He goes, I just like to learn about people. I just want to learn. And we got to talking, and it was kind of fun. But these are curious people. I met just a Hispanic gentleman up north on a job. He was doing lath on a job. And he started to ask me, he says, you have a lot of work? I go, I got enough. And he goes, I'm always looking for work. If you need a lather, I'm really, really good at what I do. And is there anything else you need? And he was asking me questions. He's business minded. He's curious. He wants to know. He wanted to know about me, all the kind of jobs I have lined out, that kind of thing. Those are learning people. These are people that are wanting to learn about human character, about quality craftsmanship, about human relations. They're always curious about that. The problem is that they are the people that do 80% of the work. And the only way you can do 80% of the work is knowing as much information as you can. I saw some drywallers. I love my drywaller, but he gets crews every once in a while that are lazy. And I went on a job site and I said, hey, how come there's so much drywall just piled up? And he says, oh, those are the hangers. The hangers need to come clean it up. We're just mudders. All right. Can you let your hangers know? You need to call the boss to do that. This was a person not interested in making themselves a better employee, a better anything. They were strictly focused. They're called technicians. I'm only going to operate within this really narrow corridor. So guess what happened? All right. I'm looking for another drywaller. Why? Because he's not gathering some of the best people I want on my job. So I'm trying out another drywaller, because every time I went to this job site of his job sites, there's a new crew, and I get tired of that. I want to go to a job site that I know the crew, I know their names, I can talk with them, and I can be friendly and learn to build a relationship with them. So I've got a new drywall company I'm going to try. And like me, I love mom and pop shops, small operations, the dad or mother's running the business. I have ease of communication. And I don't mind it if they have crews that are working a job, but as long as they have sustainability and continuity in their company. And so I look for those types of things. Let's take a couple more questions before we close. We got another minute. KJX, all great info. Love it. Can you talk about your First Steps course sometime? The First Steps course is really a 5,000 foot level. It's about the whole big picture of owner building, questions you haven't posed yourself. And the most important module is module 3, and it helps you identify the real cost per square foot in your market for a comparable home. I had a student mention that they were doing an omni-block home in Arizona. They couldn't find any comparables. And I said, why don't you just find comparables for the same square footage, the same bathrooms, the same bedrooms, all that, with some of the same exterior features, and find what's selling in that arena. And then it goes through a kind of an arithmetic to deduct this, deduct that, and all that kind of stuff. And when they're all done, it tells them really what the cost per square foot would be for them without a lot of other extra fees. And he messaged me back and he said, this was eye-opening. That really helped me out. And then I messaged back to him and I says, do it 2 more times. So do the whole analysis on one home and then do another house on another home, do another house on another home. And when you do that, you'll get a ratio. You'll get an average of the cost per square foot. And that's going to roughly tell you what your cost per square foot is. I mean, that module alone is worth the course, and it's helped a lot of students. And I can tell that a lot of students, when they go through this the First Steps course, they either immediately jump into the self-managed, or they say, that was informative. I'm thankful for Keith. He helped me out. I think I'm going to hire a general contractor. Or they say, that's great. This is really pointing me in the right direction. I can do this on my own. So I just had a student message me. This is a really good testimonial to the whole thing. Finished a home in California, single woman, 63, 64 years of age, really sweet lady. She just finished her home on her own. And now she's looking to do a multifamily complex in downtown Los Angeles as an owner builder, a fourplex. And she can do that in the state of California as an owner builder. She can build a fourplex. That's her next stage. That's what she wants to do next. And so you build confidence. The thing is immersion. The more you immerse yourself into the process, you build relationships with people. Now I know a great framer, all that kind of stuff. Once you build that, you get closer to what's called second nature. It's not something you have to research and figure out. You've already gone through that process, and it's an automatic thing in your brain. And then you start thinking about opportunities and how you can master this and do this and kind of expand that. That's the real neat thing about owner builders. It wakes you up to business, wakes you up to potential, wakes you up to how you can become more independent in your life. And that's really what this is all about. 2 cents. Is a shed roof the least expensive roof to put on a house? Yes, it's the easiest one to frame. The problem is that if your original pitch is too shallow, then it's going to make that shed roof too shallow. And I don't like to do a shed roof that's less than 312 pitch. I could go 212, but it limits your roofing products. And then you're going to have to put a TPO or a flat liquid applied product on your roof. And that is known to collapse sooner than any other asphalt or other roof that's on there. So as long as you can keep it to a steeper pitch than 312, 412 is even better, the better. But yeah, they're easier to frame. And they bring in a lot more light. These dormers that are like that, they don't bring near as much light as a dormer that's going straight out like that. And think about it. I know it has a country look, and that's why they call them a shed dormer. It's like a shed on a barn, but they're a lot more attractive on the inside, a ton more attractive on the inside. Although they have that farm look on the outside. It's something you have to, get over with if you don't want to stay with a farm look. You want a contemporary home, but you want that light inside, or you want a dormer for a window for an egress escape outside for a bedroom. These are all things you have to think about in your design process. Okay, I think we're done. Any other questions? We're done. Please like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. This has been good. Again, we'll be here every Thursday, 5 to 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and go to howtobuildyourownhome.com if you're looking into this, just wanting to be an owner builder. Take the First Steps course. It's worth it. It's invaluable. I've had a lot of positive feedback on that. And then if you're gumptious, go to be an owner builder and take the first step, the self-managed course, and it will give you everything you need, all the systems and downloads and files, everything you need to be an owner builder. It helps streamline that. And I can't begin to tell you how important it is. It's that good. I just got another testimonial that came this afternoon. A friend of mine, she's owner building in Colorado or Arizona, Oregon, and she knows what kind of business I did. And I says, how come you're not using the self-managed course? I don't know. You don't know what it is, do you? Not really. I go, it's a real close friend. She does a lot of work for me. She's my accountant. And I just gave it to her. And she emailed me back, thank you. This is going to be a blessing. So it is a blessing. howtobuildyourownhome.com. See you guys later.